Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video. Now the RuneScape market sometimes can be crazy, and throughout the last 4 or 5 years there have been some crazy market events. So today I wanted to have a look at some of the biggest market changes in RuneScape history. Famous ones like the zul-andra teleport, but I'm also going to have a look at some of the other insane price increases. Now for the most part these are caused by updates, but sometimes they can just be out of the blue or with very little explanation. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and let's get started. Now you hear kids probably don't remember the prohibition days of RuneScape. Ooh man, that was cringy. Now back in 2017, we had one of the biggest price increases of all time, and I'm sure a lot of people remember the prohibition days of RuneScape, where vodka was in short supply. Now the great vodka shortage of 2017 was caused by a singular update with an ill thought out quest item, that being vodka. Now to complete the Bon Voyage quest, you actually needed 2 bottles of vodka, which doesn't sound like much, but the actual supply of vodka is very limited as they only enter the game through 3 separate shops and there's no other way to get it. You can get it at the Lighthouse store, the Aspen Snake Bar, and Funch's Fine Groceries. Between the 3 of them, there's only 20 in stock per world, and at the time there were thousands of people attempting to complete the quest. Yes, they tried to buy them on the Granite Exchange, but they quickly ran out of stock, driving the price up drastically. The price of vodka was normally somewhere around 500 GP each. However, after the update, some vodkas were sold for actually close to 1,000,000 GP each. That's so crazy. People really wanted to complete the quest, which is a 2,000 times increase, which is pretty insane. But still, for the next couple of days, vodkas were extremely expensive and in short supply. Now next up here we have an event that happened back in 2018 near the release of the Theater of Blood. Now as the designs were getting finalized for some of the rewards for Raids 2, one that came up was the Vampirium vambraces. Now when the poll blog was released, they mentioned that the Vampirium vambraces would have a precursor item, and that would be Ranger gloves. Now we know historically that when they use items that are extremely rare as a precursor item, for example Ranger boots, they get extremely expensive, and most likely the Raids 2 drop will be very inexpensive, similar to how the Mccutcheon crystal and the Ranger boots work. So this would have been a very similar thing. Now before the poll blog was released, Ranger gloves were worth around 3 or 4 mil at the time, but after the release date they shot up 10 times in value, up to 30 mil, which is a massive increase for an item that's already very expensive. A 10 times increase just under the assumption that an update will pass is kind of crazy. A few of them did sell for 30 mil each. A couple days after that, they ended up totally reworking the Vampirium vambraces into something else, and then they didn't end up passing anyway, so nothing came of it, except for one of the biggest price increases of all time. Now in a very similar vein, we have a fairly recent update that happened just at the end of 2019. Now the lead up to the Nightmare had a few different ideas that were being proposed, and similar to the Vampirium vambraces, we had a new item that was being proposed that had a precursor item as well. Now the new proposed item was the Siren's Tome, and the precursor item would have been the Mage's Book. Now once again there are a couple of issues with that. Again, the Mage's Book is not very easy to get, and there's not a huge amount of them in circulation. Now at the time this was definitely a roller coaster ride, because the interesting part is the Siren's Tome did actually end up passing. However, as many of you know, Jagex decided not to add it even after it had passed a poll, which was extremely rare. I don't think that had happened very much before. So the Mage's Book started at around 4 mil, shot up in value to I think around 15 mil at one of the highest prices, went up and down a couple of days, and then immediately crashed right back down after the update was pulled. Okay, so next up here we have another pretty recent item, and that is Granite Boots. Now Granite Boots were originally added with the Fossil Island update, but pretty much immediately lost all of their value. And for much of 2017 they were valued at only around 100k. Now the very first update of 2019 was going to be a big mid-level update, and that was the Kebos Lowlands. And leading up to it, there were some hints that Granite Boots would actually be used in the update. So for pretty much all of 2018, Granite Boots were slowly increasing in price, leading up until the update where they're worth close to 4 mil each. And after the update dropped, some of them were actually selling for close to 10 million GP, which is almost 100 times increase from its price back a year ago. Now, why did this happen? Well, Granite Boots actually were the best in slot item to bring into the Kurum Slayer dungeon. And that's because they protect the wearer from extremely hot ground, and there weren't that many other boots to do it. Yes, there are other boots you could wear, like the Boots of Brimstone or the Boots of Stone. However, unlike them, the Granite Boots do offer a strength bonus, making them best in slot, assuming you hadn't finished the Elite Karen Diary. This definitely generated a massive hype for the item, but they did quickly crash right back down again, but since then have still managed to hold a pretty decent value compared to where they were before. Now you can't really make a video like this without talking about the Zul-andra teleport, probably one of the most famous price increases of all time, which really did kind of come out of nowhere. Now when Zorah was added back in 2015, they also decided to put in the Zul-andra teleport that was a tradable teleport drop that you could get from Zorah to bring you right there. Now what's crazy is when the update was added, Zul-andra teleports were dropped in quantities of 50, and they were of course common enough that they really started to stack up quickly and cause a massive oversupply of the teleport scrolls. Now even though they were shortly reduced to 20, that still didn't matter, there were still way too many of them, and their value stayed at around 100 GP each, which was nearly worthless for a teleport like that. Now Jagex one day decided that this was not what they intended, so on October 15th, 2015, they silently reduced it to 1 scroll per drop, effectively reducing the quantity by 50 times from the content at release. Now of course this immediately drove up the price of Zul-andra teleports, going from 100 GP each all the way up to 55k just a few months later. Now Zul-andra teleports remained extremely expensive for pretty much an entire year, spanning from June of 2016 to June of 2017, but at that point Jagex again decided to make a pretty significant change, increasing the quantity up to 4, which again effectively crashed the price immediately, but has been hovering around 15,000 GP each pretty much ever since. Now at the time this update was kind of controversial just because of how much money some people could have made or ended up making, but in the end it probably was a good decision because 100 GP teleports directly to Zorah is definitely not very balanced. This was pretty much a 550 times increase in price. Now back in 2017, one of the bigger updates that was coming out that year was the Grotesque Guardian, and there was a lot of hype surrounding a mid-level boss coming to Old School. Now sometime at the end of the summer there was a poll blog released talking about some of the new items that would be dropped from the boss, and they talked about the black tourmaline core. Now in the blog they mentioned that actually the Bandos boots would be used to create the new Guardian boot, which caused the price to shoot up drastically. Previously the Bandos boots had been slowly declining in price for years, and held an average price before all this at around 200k each. Now because of the Grotesque Guardian, the price shot up immediately to upwards of 3 million GP each. Now the interesting thing about this is the update didn't get cancelled, it came through pretty much as intended, but pretty much as soon as the Grotesque Guardian came out, it plummeted right back down to where it was. Now this mainly has to do with the fact that the black tourmaline core is much rarer than Bandos boots, because at least back then, and probably today, not that many people actually kill the gargoyle boss, it's not very good money per hour, and the kills are very long, at least they were back then. On top of that, defensive gear in general, being the Guardian boot and Bandos boots, are not sought after as much as strength boosting gear. For example, Dragon boots, which are much cheaper, have a higher strength bonus than the Guardian boots. Yes, the Guardian boots do have niche uses, they have good range defense, there is places for them, but their uses are definitely limited. People figured that out pretty quickly and the Bandos boots plummeted right back down to about 200k. Now next up here we have another set of items from Zorah, and what we're talking about are the Zorah uniques. Now shortly after when Zorah was released, most of the uniques crashed in price. That's not that uncommon, however, the only one really to hold any amount of value at the time was the Tanzanite Fang. That one managed to hold a value of around 2 mil back in late 2015, where the Serpentine Visage and the Magic Fang were down to about 200k each. The Magic Fang going down to almost under 100k at one point, extremely inexpensive for what they were. Now to counteract this item freefall, Jagex decided to implement a measure that would allow you to dismantle any of these Zorah uniques into a set amount of Zorah scales, that being 20,000. As Zorah scales had value, they were used as ammunition. This would hold all of them roughly around the same place as long as Zorah scales had value. However, as the Magic Fang and the Serpentine Visage were instantly worth about 30 times more, going from around 100k up to 2 mil in a matter of a couple weeks, and then continuing up to 3 mil in the next few months. An extremely massive price increase just caused by a very minor tweak during an update. Now Jagex has put in similar measures again in the future, but they haven't had as drastic of an effect as Zorah. Anyway guys, thanks for watching today's video. Now before I go here, I want to thank Heathen Lock Games, Double Talk, Nathan Ashworth, and the rest of my members over on YouTube. Thank you for making the dream possible, and I really appreciate your support. If you're looking for a way to support the channel, becoming a YouTube member is an excellent way to do so. You'll get access to a custom Discord role, emojis when I stream, and being mentioned in the description of my videos at the end of the video or personally addressed. Anyway, thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you next time.